Hello everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up a complex mouth for use with the VBridger plugin. We're going to be using blend shapes in today's video, which requires the use of the Pro version or the 45-day free trial of Live2D. Alright, so we're going to get started by making all of the parameters that we're going to need for this mouth. So we start off with our basic parameters, which is mouth form and mouth open. However, we're going to need to create a few more here. Our first new parameter is going to be called mouth funnel. Make sure that it's the same in the IDE too. We want that to be a minimum of 0, default of 0, and a maximum of 1. And make sure that the blend shape box is ticked for this one. Our next parameter will be called mouth press lip open, and that will have a range of -1 minimum, 0 default, and 1 maximum. Make sure that blend shape is also ticked for this one. Then we have mouth shrug, which has a range of 0 minimum, 0 default, and 1 maximum, and this time it is not a blend shape. Next is mouth pucker. This one will have a minimum of -1, default of 0, and a maximum of 1, and again not a blend shape. And next we have MouthX, with a minimum of -1, default of 0, and a maximum of 1, and not a blend shape. Finally, we have the jaw open parameter, which will have a minimum of 0, default of 0, and a maximum of 1. And this is not a blend shape. So all in all, you should end up with 8 parameters for your mouth here. Let's get started with the actual rigging of this thing, shall we? So first things first is we're going to be playing around with the upper and lower lip, as we would a normal mouth. We're not going to be touching any of the inner parts quite yet. We're going to start off by assigning 2 keyforms to mouth open for both the upper and lower lip. And we're going to create our default mouth open here. So that's our default mouth just opening up here. The upper lip shouldn't move barely at all. In this case, I haven't had the upper lip move at all for just the default mouth opening. And don't worry about the teeth quite yet, that comes in later. Now that we've got our default mouth open set up, we're going to go ahead and start with our mouth forms. So here's a quick way of setting up our mouth form. Let's go ahead and put it at 1, so we're going to want to create a smile here. We're going to go ahead and go up to Modeling, and scroll down to Temporary Deform Tool, and we're going to want to create a temporary path deformation. All we need to do is pop on a few points as we would a normal path. And don't forget to have both your upper and lower lips selected here. And then what we can do is just move these points, and it will move both of our art meshes at the same time. So that saves you the time of setting up both art meshes individually. And we can do the exact same for our frown. Now that we've finished our mouth forms, we can go ahead and link mouth form with mouth open. And with that selected, we're going to go up to this menu here and synthesize our corners. What this is going to do is it's going to try and figure out how to combine our mouth form with our mouth opening here, which saves us a lot of work. You will notice that there is tweaks that needs to be done, so we're going to go ahead and just fine-tune this a little bit. And once you're happy with that, just go ahead and add another keyform in the middle of mouth open. So it should be 3 by 3. Alright, time to move on to our next parameter. And this time it's mouth funnel. So for mouth funnel, what we want to do is pinch out the middle of the lips here. So we're going to take our upper lip and move this middle point up. And our lower lip and move the middle point down. You want the line of your mouth to be more or less center to this. So here is our mouth funneling. Lastly, what we need to do here is grab both, go back onto our temporary deform tool, go to temporary path deformation again. This time we're going to create points at the sides as well as at the start of the funnel. And we want to move in the sides of the mouth a little bit. Since our mouth is making this shape, the sides of our lips should be squishing in a little bit. Lastly, what we're going to need to do with the mouth funnel is go back up to our settings here, and we need to limit settings for blend shape weights. It's going to pop up with this menu right here. With mouth funnel selected, we need to grab our mouth open parameter from this list. And then click add. And it will come up with this graph right here. And we need to set this to fold line free. As a little explanation of what this line does, it basically makes it so that funnel will not be active when the mouth is fully open or at 0.5, because our lips will not funnel when our mouth is open. So as you can see, it funnels at 0, but stretches out when the mouth is open. Next, we're going to set up our mouth press lip open. We're going to set 3 keyforms for this one. We're going to start off by setting up -1 here. And this will be the action of us pressing our lips together, so it's going to look a little bit like a cat face. We're going to use our temporary deform path tool again. This time we're going to have 5 points across our mouth. Like so. And we're going to want to lift up the middle point until it's a bit like the cat face. And we want to shift up our midpoints here just a little bit. So it should look a bit like this. Next we're going to set up the right side, so 1.0. For this one we can cheat a little bit. We're going to set the mouth open to 0.3. And then we're going to take our brush selection tool. And we want to make this around about the size of our mouth, but not covering the sides. So about like this. We're going to select the open part of our mouth here, and we're going to press Ctrl, Shift, and C together, and this will copy the state of our selected mesh. Go ahead and set our mouth back to default, and with mouth press lip open at 1, we're going to Ctrl, Shift, and V to paste that, and it will open our mouth here. With the selection still active, we want to go to the arrow tool, and then drag this box up until it is about in line with the sides of the mouth here. So it should seem like it's just opening from the center. And then we're gonna go ahead and just tweak the sides here, because you can see there's a little bit of odd deformation going on here. And that's our mouth press lip open done. Once again, we do need to go back into the limit settings for blend shape weights. We need to go ahead and select our blend shape for the mouth press. And do the exact same thing. Select our mouth open and add it. Make sure it's on fold line free. And then we're all done with that one. Before we move on to the next parameter, there's a couple of deformers that we're going to need to make. we're going to go ahead and select all of our teeth, as well as the tongue. And we're going to create a new warp deformer for them called Jaw. Select your remaining mouth parts, and create a warp deformer called Shrug. We're going to be using this new Shrug deformer in order to create our mouth shrug parameter. So we're going to go ahead and set 2 keyforms here. And we're also going to need to create 2 keyforms on mouth open. Now this is very important. Make sure that mouth open is always set to 0 whilst we're setting stuff up. And we're going to go ahead and set mouth shrug to 1. This one's pretty basic to set up. All we need to do is move the center of our warp deformer upwards, as if the mouth is shrugging up. And that is that one all done. Next, to move on to mouth pucker, we're going to need another new warp deformer. This one's going to be above the shrug deformer. And we're going to name this one pucker. We're going to go ahead and set 3 keyforms on this one. This one is, again, pretty easy. So at -1 we want our lips to be squished in, whilst at 1 we want our lips to be squished outwards. So we're going to go ahead and go to -1. You can hold down the Alt key and select the side of this red box, and then just easily squish our mouth in, like so, and do the same with 1, just outward. So it should look a little bit like this. Next we move on to MouthX, and once again we need another new warp deformer. This one goes above the pucker, and this will be called MouthX. We're going to set 3 keyforms here. And at -1 we want our lips to move to the left, and at 1 we want them to move to the right. And here's a little trick. Once you've set up one side, you can simply just go to this menu here, select Reflect Motion, reflect horizontally, and it will automatically set up the other side for you. One last thing we need to do with our MouthX here. We're going to go back to this menu here and select Extended Interpolation. This window will pop up, and we're going to want to set this to Ellipse Interpolation. This will just smooth out the movement a little bit. Right, time for the final parameter here, and this is our jaw open. We're going to be using that jaw deformer that we made earlier. We want to make sure that the front teeth are not within this deformer. So if they are in here, make sure to remove those, but do not put them under our MouthX deformer. So within your jaw, you should have your tongue as well as any of your lower teeth. We're going to select our jaw deformer and create 2 keyforms on our jaw open parameter. This is going to be easier to set up if we can see our mouth being open. Let's go ahead and open up our mouth here. And we're going to set our jaw open to 1. And all we need to do is move this one down. Until it is at the bottom of your mouth. You might want to double check your mouth forms as well, to make sure that your teeth are not clipping or are visible however you'd like. And that is the mouth all set up there. Now there's a couple of extra things that we do need to add here. We're going to need to find our face, and we're going to need to create a deformer for it. First we're going to create a deformer called Face MouthX, and this is going to be set up on MouthX. Go ahead and create 3 keyforms on MouthX there. And what we're going to need to do is just tweak the side of the face here so it moves alongside the mouth. Next, what we're going to need to do is increase our Bezier division number on our deformer. So you should see this on your inspector. We're going to need to set the height to 3. And all we need to do is move this middle point here to follow the mouth. So we want our chin to be following our mouth along a little bit. You can once again reflect the motion on this to save you some time. So now our face is following our mouth like so. And then one more deformer above that one. And we're going to call this one face jaw. And this one's going to go on jaw open, so 2 keyforms on that. Let's go ahead and open our mouth again. And when our jaw is open, our chin is going to be dragged downwards. So we're going to go ahead and move this point down here. And the sides just a little. Like so. Unlike the mouth here, we have not set any keyforms on mouth open. So when our mouth is closed, you'll see the jaw is still operating. We need to do one more thing here. We're going to go ahead and create a new deformer over our MouthX, and we're going to call this mouth jaw. Go ahead and put 2 keyforms both on mouth open as well as on jaw open. And making sure that mouth open is at 0, go ahead and put your jaw open to 1, and we're going to want to move this down with the face. You can also tweak this however you'd like, so I'm going to drag down the middle point here a little bit. And this means when your mouth is closed, but your jaw is opening, so basically like chewing, you can see it on your model. And that is all the rigging done for our VBridger mouth. Next I'll show you how to set it up. So next up, we need to set it up in VTubeStudio. As you can see, my mouth is not responding to all the parameters that we just made. This is because we need to add them as custom parameters. Before we set anything up here, we need to make sure that VBridger is running and connected to VTubeStudio. For more information on setting that up, check the description below for the setup guide. Let's go ahead and open up the settings. Go to the 3rd tab, and scroll all the way down to the bottom. You need to click on this plus to add a new parameter. Next thing we need to do is click on the input button here. And we're going to scroll down until we see VBridger. And it should have plugin next to them. You're going to see a bunch of new parameters here. We're going to ignore some of these since we're just setting up the mouth. But basically what we need to do is add in all of the parameters that we just set up in Live2D. So let's go ahead and add mouth shrug first. And for our output, we just need to find our parameter with the same name. And that's that one all set up. All we need to do now is rinse and repeat for every single parameter that we set up. When you get to MouthX, it may be higher up on the list since it's not a VBridger specific parameter, or you can use the search bar. So that should be all of our new parameters set up in VTubeStudio. Now you will notice that the jaw is not responding as well as it should be. That's because we need to make sure that the output maximum is the same as mouth open. So you'll see on this model that mouth open is set at 2.1, as default jaw open will be set to maximum of 1. So we just need to find our jaw open and set our maximum to the same as mouth open. And you'll see that it will now work as intended. Finally, feel free to tinker around with any of the numbers here, as you may find better results tinkering with it a little bit. It is entirely dependent on your face shape. A huge thank you to Kaia Soul for allowing me to use her VTuber model in one of my tutorials once again. If you'd like to check out her content, then do please go look in the description for a link to her Twitch. And that is how you set up a complex mouth for use with VBridger. It's a whole lot easier with blend shapes. If you want more information about using blend shapes, I have a handy dandy video which will be linked right over here. I've also created a learning file for you guys so that you can follow this tutorial along, or you can refer back to it if you ever get confused about how to set up this mouth. And that will be linked in the description below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps us out an awful lot. And do be sure to let us know in the comments how your Live2D journey is going. With that, I'm off. Bye bye everyone!